And of course, we're here. And we're back at it again with another live one for all you Bi-Conics nerds out there. And welcome to another Friday Night Faction review. I am your host, Mikey, and joined with me this week is the lovely Miniferd, Mini, Evan, whatever you want to call him on these social media platforms. Good to have you back, bud.
Yeah.
We love to see it. And this was an excellent SmackDown, I have to say. I was pleasantly surprised.
Any SmackDown with LA Knight is going to be a good SmackDown. What do you mean? LA Knight, John Cena, come on.
I mean, let's just not waste any time. Let's just jump into it. So literally that's who we started with this week. So John Cena kicks off SmackDown. He enters the ring. He, of course, does his Cena thing and he hypes up the crowd and he welcomes everybody to the season premiere of SmackDown. And before Cena can get any other words out, Roman Reigns' music hits. And then Cena does like his best impersonation of the Vince McMahon reaction. Like anytime Steve Austin when Vince heard Steve Austin's glass shatter for his entrance. Thankfully, Roman didn't take like 20 minutes to come down to the ring. Which
He took
very
like
nice.
7. He took like 17.
That's very fair. He took like 17 minutes. And then I sat there. I was like, I forgot how much I hated and how I forgot how long his entrance was. But essentially, Roman with Solo and Paul Heyman make their way down to the ring. Roman says that he's been Universal Champion for about 1,139 days. So that was crazy. He does the acknowledgement bit, which, gets the crowd to react. And then from here, it gets crazy. So essentially, Cena and Reigns, they have a little bit of a back and forth. Reigns telling Cena he's leave. Cena says that, he's not going to, and the WWE is predictable. And they keep going back and forth. And essentially, Cena's just like, I'm not here to face you, Roman, but there's somebody you need to acknowledge. And then, of course, L.A. Knight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Music hits. Exactly. He comes down to the ring. And I've got to be honest, I was a little worried because I was like, oh no, I hope Roman Reigns doesn't bury LA Knight on this mic. But thankfully he didn't. And
Well, Roman has gotten significantly better at his promo skills, but he's still, I don't think he is as good as LA Knight. LA Knight is still going to bury him, I think, 8 times out of 10 on the mic. But hot take here, I've said this in the past, and you guys have heard when I've done previous Raw and SmackDown reviews with the Professor and everything like that, I was getting tired of the Bloodline segments. I feel like they put just enough of a good twist on this that I actually halfway enjoyed the Bloodline segments because it's not every week like it used to be. It's sparse, which is good.
I agree with you. And at first I didn't like that Roman Reigns wasn't on television or at the pay-per-views, given the fact that he is our champion and he hasn't defended those titles since SummerSlam. But his absence kind of made it a little bit better because we weren't getting the Bloodline stuff every single week, and they put enough of a twist on it, like you said, to make it better.
I still love how homoerotic Paul Heyman is with Roman Reigns.
Oh my goodness. Again, like this whole entire week, Paul Heyman has had a lot of choices when it comes to the underlining tension.
I want someone to look at me like how Paul Heyman looks at Roman Reigns.
Shoot, seriously. But ultimately, what this ends up doing is that Reigns and Cena and LA Knight are trying to have a conversation. And then Jimmy Uso from out of nowhere jumps LA Knight and beats him up. And then the camera does an excellent job because they catches Roman Reigns' expression. He's like, I didn't tell you to do this. Like, what are you doing? And then he proceeds to leave with Paul Heyman and Solo Sikoa. And then this is after LA Knight throws Jimmy over the ropes. And essentially this sets up our main event tonight where LA Knight's going to be taking on Solo Sikoa tonight. Again, I thought this was a great opening segment. It was just enough of the bloodline for me not to want to be like, ugh, here we go again.
It wasn't 45 minutes of the hour and a half long SmackDown.
Thank you. I was like, please do that every week. Don't spend like the first fourth
Like,
or
give it
third of your show.
15 minutes, call it a day.
Seriously. And so from this segment, we enter our first match of the evening, which is the Brawling Brutes taking on a returning Pretty Deadly now that Elton Prince is back from injury. And I gotta say, this was a really fun match. And of course, the Yes Boys of Pretty Deadly are just so fantastic.
Oh, I like Pretty Deadly. They're funny as hell. I love the commentaries about it too. How one dude was like all over Corgus is all over Pretty Deadly, and Michael Cole was like, "Dude, these guys are stupid." And they're like, "It's like, oh, him coming back is like when Aaron Rodgers comes back for the Jets." Michael Cole, if you guys don't know, Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles, and Michael Cole's like, "Yeah, he tore his Achilles and was walking out off of crutches after 2 weeks. Um, he hurt his shoulder and was in a wheelchair for 3 months." That line was funny to me.
I'm just like, oh my goodness. But I think this match was a lot of fun. Obviously, we see that the Brawling Brutes do take majority of the offense towards the beginning of this match. We have your standard back and forth. These four have worked together previously, so it's a lot of fun. And this match goes pretty decently long because we get a commercial break in between this. And
This is
then,
like 7, 8 minute match.
and I was just like, thank you. I was like, this is what I want to see is like 8 to 10 minute matches with a commercial break in between. But ultimately, I love that the Brawling Brutes, towards the finishing sequence of this, Ridge tags in and he tries to pull Elton Prince off of the rope, but Elton ends up going down and holding his leg. No, yeah. And so eventually there's a fake injury with Pretty Deadly, which then they take advantage of to get the surprise roll up for the win. And the winners of this match are Pretty Deadly. Minnie, what do you think that the Brawling Brutes and Pretty Deadly are done, or do we think we get more of this continuing forward with SmackDown?
I think they're gonna do more because they want something to do with the Brawling Brutes because Sheamus is hurt, and they want a starting feud for Pretty Deadly before they push him into anything bigger because of him just coming off of injury. So I think this might go on a couple more weeks. It started out; it was a good way for them to come back. It still makes the Brawling Brooks look strong because they didn't really lose the match. They lost due to cheating, but it's a way for them to get Pretty Deadly a win coming back after being gone for 3 months. So it was a solid. They booked it well. It was a good match overall. Those dudes, all of them were super talented. As much as we like to hate on the bus for hurting people, but they all did well. I think this is going to continue for another. I'm gonna. I don't. I think it might end at Crown Jewel because they might have those guys perform at Crown Jewel because they're but it could end before that. I wouldn't be surprised if it was either or.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Again, I thought this was a great opening match, and like you said, I definitely see them building this up to Crown Jewel, and then from there we can figure out what we want to do with them. After this match, we head backstage where first we are shown some highlights from Fastlane with Carlito's return. And then Kayla Braxton is standing with Carlito and gives this kind of interview. She asked Carlito his reaction, from the fans and what he thinks about his return at Fastlane. And the only one word that he can think of to describe how it is to be back is cool, which I love because that's catchphrase. And he takes a bite at the apple, and then Bobby Lashley walks up and gets in Carlito's face. And then he tells Carlito, it's like, things have changed since you left. This is no longer SmackDown. This is my show, in which the Street Profits attack Carlito from behind, brings in Adam Pearce to calm things down. And yeah, so it seems that the Street Profits and Bobby are not done with Carlito and the LWO. So I'm excited to see where this goes. Minnie, what did you think? Well, first of all, what did you think of Carlito's return at Fastlane? And what do you think about this feud that LWO and the Suit Profits, as we've called them, is continuing?
I like him coming back. Carlito was a nice little mid card act when I was watching wrestling as a kid. He had a little bit of a storyline when he kayfabed sent somebody to stab John Cena in the back at a nightclub. I'm not sure if you guys remember that. Um, but yeah, it was nice seeing him come back.
People tend to forget that. We don't.
Oh yeah, that's when John Cena. I think that's when he was the U.S. He was the U.S. champion, or he was winning his first U.S. title. I don't remember which one it was. But Carlito coming back was pretty cool. He's gotten huge since he's back in his little cruiserweight days. I like the initial feud. They're finally gets LWO on the TV, which is good because they've been kind of just stagnant doing nothing, and it gets the Suit Profits something. I actually kind of hope, as much as I like the LWO, I hope the Suit Profits win because I think they need some momentum. Because there is no like heel faction besides the Bloodline in SmackDown, and they're like the main event thing, so we kind of need like a mid card heel faction. Because there's no like Judgment Day on SmackDown, so I think the Super Profits should be able to fill that role pretty well, and I like to see more of Angelo Dawkins and those guys on my screen. Give me more Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. I love those guys. So,
Oh, me too. I love them. And from this little beatdown, we go into a commercial break because then when we come back, we are still backstage, and we see that Roman is sitting with Jimmy talking about the bloodline. Roman asks Jimmy
well,
about,
you forgot you forgot something there. I believe Bailey comes out and is yelling like,
right,
"Hey,
I forgot.
there's like a bunch of other BS coming on," and Selena Vega was like, "Yo, what are you doing? My guy just got hurt.
Okay,
Why you out
let me
here?"
backtrack there because you're right. I know.
It was the one women's match of the night. How do I remember this over you?
Listen, I'm congested. I might be hopped up on cold medicine, so my logical processes may or may not be affected, but you are absolutely right. So we'll come back to the bloodline backstage, but we come back for a commercial, and Bailey walks in with LWO with Carlito, and Bailey's just being Bailey. She's being a troll. At first, she like says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so worried. I hope you're okay," and then she makes fun of the situation, and then Zelina like not really, but curses her out in Spanish, which sets up Bailey versus Zelina later, which is cool. I'm excited. We'll talk about that match when we get there because SmackDown was SmackDown was really great, but my biggest critique is going to be in a little bit. So now we get back to the backstage with Roman and Jimmy. So, like I said, Roman Reigns is talking to Jimmy, asking him why he decided it was okay for Jimmy to go and act a fool and call the shots while Roman was gone, and why he's acting like the quarterback of the bloodline. He asks Jimmy if he was running things, and Jimmy says he'd get Jey Uso. Roman doesn't like what Jey has been doing, pointing him to running around with Cody Rhodes, a slap in the face. Jimmy says he doesn't want to slap Reigns in the face, and Reigns tells Jimmy that he calls the shots. He asks Jimmy if they're good. Jimmy says they are, and they pound fists as the segment ends. Which
as Jimmy says, as Jimmy says, "Yeet," and Roman goes, "I don't like that. Don't do that again."
Okay, let's take a side tangent real quick because that during the scrum after Fastlane, Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso made meme history with that section of the scrum because they were plastered. It was messy, but it was glorious.
It was one of the things where they weren't disruptive enough for them to get in trouble, so they were just enough for them to be able like this is great. And with Trips, more in charge now, I don't think they're going to get in trouble for it. It was awesome. It was hilarious. If you haven't had a chance to watch the post match interviews from Fastlane, just watch. If you have time, just watch Cody and Jay's. They were off their ass. It was so funny. He coming and going yeet and whoo. It was great. It was so funny.
I think that was the part of the scrum that made me laugh the most. And I think it was Chris Van Fleet who was asking the question, and Cody was like, "Woo," and then Jay's like, "Yeet." Let me tell you, TikTok took that and made it so many memes. It's great. I also love that when it was Triple H's turn after everybody had said their thing, then before he speaks, he also goes, "Yeet."
It was
I love
so
that
good.
Triple H is in on it. Like he's acknowledges it and he doesn't try to hide it. It's hilarious.
Triple H was great.
Oh my goodness. Ugh. Again, I'm so happy that he is in charge of creative. So hopefully we'll start to see some changes over the next couple of months.
Oh yeah, we don't.
Speaking of
Yeah, so
changes, this is
I don't know if y'all realized if you guys haven't heard, TKO, the whole parent company of WWE, decided to boot Vince out. He has no say in any creative whatsoever anymore, is according to TKO, and Triple H now has full control over creative. I'm not sure if you guys saw the news. This is a recent development, so hopefully we.
so with Trips now in charge of creative, hopefully we'll start to see some changes in the next couple of months because this next match is a prime example of what one of the things I would like to be changed. So next, we get Bailey versus Zelina Vega, which is the only women's match that we have of the night. So that's already not a good sign. And the fact that this was a really quick match, which basically, you know, Bailey basically beating Zelina. Zelina still able to do her finisher of the code red. Zelina and hits a modified 619 on EO, but because of the distractions from damage control, it allows Bailey to connect with the
No,
rose plant and get the cover
no,
for the win. So it's just like, okay, cool. Sure.
no
Why not?
offense to either. I now think I've seen the worst 619 I've seen. That I think now that Dominic now has the second worst 619. No offense to Selena Vega. I love Selena Vega. She, the bottom rope 619 kind of threw me through a loop. And the rose plant, terrible finisher. Bailey stopped doing it.
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely not a great moment. Again, the match was short. It was kind of sloppy at certain parts. And yeah, hopefully we'll start to see the women's matches be better and be booked better. But after the match, Zelina gets beaten down by damage control until Charlotte Fair runs out to chase them off. And I'm just like, okay. I'm like, I still don't know how to feel with Charlotte being a face, kind of face, I guess, or at least an
I
in
don't,
betweener at best.
I don't know how I
But
feel about that either. It's weird.
yeah, I'm
A lot of weirdness.
it is, and we're gonna talk more about Charlotte because we see her a little bit later. We'll talk about that. So after this, we're about half at this point. We're about halfway through SmackDown. And so, to kind of kick off the second hour, Triple H comes out. And this is where we have this segment in which we are told that general managers are now becoming a thing again. So, Triple H comes out. Basically, the crowd loves Triple H, and he also has Adam Pearce come down to the ring.
Love Triple H.
And it said,
I,
uh,
I have
me
a
too.
I have a hot take. I think Triple H is the most slept on wrestler in the industry when it comes to how good he is at everything he did. No, I don't see very many people ever mention him in their top, 10 greatest wrestlers of all time, and I want to say I disagree. Triple H, one of the best to never be talked about. he should be talked about more in the sense of his career.
I 100% agree. And so, with that being said, Triple H has Adam Pearce come to the ring, and Triple H gives Pearce his flowers that he's doing a tremendous job running both Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown from behind the scenes. And because of such, he's giving Adam Pearce the promotion. That the promotion is not running more than, basically Adam Pearce gets promoted to general manager, and that Adam Pearce is now the official general manager of Raw, so he will be doing with that. But then that leaves the question, who is going to be the general manager for Friday Night SmackDown? And before
Dominic
Triple H,
Mysterio.
oh my gosh. And before Triple H gets a chance to even say anything, Dominic's music hits. I love this little segment. Dominic is trying to get words out and you can barely hear him. And then I love that Triple H is like, wow. I was just like, I thought they were piping in noise for when you came out, but it's really that deafening. I was like, Triple H, I love breaking the fourth wall. But essentially, Dominic's big thing is that there's a tag team championship match tonight, and the Judgment Day have their match on Monday for the tag titles, and that Judgment Day is being screwed out of their opportunity. Dominic questions how Cody and Jay can be defending those titles again here on SmackDown when they're going against the Judgment Day on Monday for those titles. And again, Dominic complains about Adam Pearce making a tag team match for SmackDown. He just keeps going back and forth until Triple H clarifies, the situation and says that he shouldn't be yelling at Adam Pearce. He needs to be talking to the new general manager of SmackDown, in which he introduces to the new general manager of SmackDown, Mr. Nick Aldis, and I was excited. I love Nick Aldis. I really, really
Former do. NWA World Champion.
Yep. We also need to mention that he is former NWA champion. He had a recent stint in Impact, which was a lot of fun. Not to mention, he is the husband of one Mickie James as well. So, in our little group chat, we talked about the possibility, would Mickie James ever go back to WWE? I was like, I'm not going to say no, but she's still in Impact. She's working with the women's division in NWA, so who knows what will happen with all that. But Nick Aldis didn't have to do Dominic Mysterio dirty like that. He's like, Dom, it's finally glad to meet you. I'm a big fan of your dad.
Dom's face looked so hurt when he said that. I was laughing so hard.
I know. I was just like, it looked like somebody kicked his puppy in front of him. Like, oh my god.
It was so funny.
Oh my goodness. It was so beautiful. But, at this point, Nick Aldis' first order of business is that Jey Uso was moved over to Raw. So for weeks, we've been talking about who's going to be traded to SmackDown. And before Nick Aldis gets a chance to say who it is, Dominic Mysterio's like, I don't care. I'm going to slap the respect out of him. And then it happens to be that the newest addition to SmackDown is Kevin Owens as he runs down and hits Dominic with the stunner to end the segment. And I had questions. Number one, I'm kind of surprised that Kevin Owens is on SmackDown. Yeah.
I was like, wait, why is it Kevin?
And I'm like, Cody's not coming over? Yeah, so you split up Sammy and KO, but Cody is going to still be on Raw? Okay, sure. So this means to tell me that if Cody's not the one who moved over to SmackDown, Minnie, do you think that Cody's winning the Men's Royal Rumble this year?
No, he won last year. They don't need him winning 2 years in a row. I think they're going to do another trade at some point, or they're going to use the tag belts as an excuse for him to jump back and forth. And he's like, you know what? I'm just staying on SmackDown after he loses them. So then he can be like, I'm just going to stay here and fight Roman for his belt. I think whoever wins the Royal Rumble is going to go after either Seth or whoever's going to take the belt from Seth before Mania.
So, okay. Well, it's kind of related. So, obviously, the big rumored names for the men is that a lot of people are saying that Gunther should be the one to win the Rumble this year, which would make a lot of sense given the fact that it was him and Cody as the final two last year during the Rumble. And I could see him fighting Seth for the title, which, oh my God, that match is going to ball so hard.
Yeah, and that we could finally
But
get like
yeah,
a.
I'm kind of surprised he split Sammy and KO. I was like, oh no, the best friends.
That's Sammy's going to be on SmackDown regardless. It's a brand split. No, it's not.
I mean, that's very, very fair. The brand split means nothing anymore.
The only brand that's technically separate is NXT, but even then, it hasn't even been that separate recently.
I mean, that's very true. But Minnie, so what do you think? Well, first, what do you think of Kevin Owens being on SmackDown, and then what do you think of Nick Aldis as the general manager for SmackDown?
I'm fine with all of it, to be honest with you. I like seeing Adam Pearce go to Raw and do a little bit of his shenanigans over there. I like Nick Aldis, regardless of what he does. And give me more Kevin Owens. So I'm fine with it. I love KO. I love what he does. Especially his most recent character of just like old school wrestling tropes are stupid. Um, so I'm excited to see what he does, and I love his sarcastic humor that he portrays on screen. So I'm excited to see more KO on my TV screen. Give me more stunners. Give me more pop-up power bombs. Yes, please.
Agreed. Sorry. Yeah, I'm excited to see what Kevin Owens does on SmackDown. If it means we get another Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens match, I'm not going to be upset about it. And yeah, I agree with you. I love Nick Aldis. And speaking of which, we literally see him in the next part because we're backstage. And this is where I got worried a little bit, only because of this first part. So Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, they come up to Nick Aldis and they said that they should get new designs for the women's tag team championships because everyone keeps telling them that those titles are cursed, which I love. And Nick is about to answer them until Charlotte Flair comes into frame, and then he literally tells Chelsea and Piper, "I got other business to attend to." And Chelsea and Piper get upset and they leave. And then Nick makes the decision because of how it went down at Fastlane. If the ref hadn't been distracted with damage control and all that, things could have gone differently. So now that he's running things, next week it's going to be Charlotte versus Io for the WWE Women's Championship. And I'm like, okay, sure.
Sure. Io's gonna win.
I hope she wins. And so
If she
I'm
doesn't,
a
we
little
riot.
worried, but I'm hoping that Io wins. Yeah, if Io doesn't retain, we riot. But then the mood changed because as Charlotte turns to leave, the camera pans over and she stops because she runs almost headfirst into Miss Jade Cargill.
I wonder if Jade's gonna have
And
a reason why.
immediately
Ooh! Jade's gonna be the reason why Charlotte doesn't win next week.
Oh my gosh, yes, I actually would love that. She just happens to be out there and like
She just entrance music comes out and she just walks out. Charlotte turns around and then she gets hit with the most devastating move in all professional wrestling, the surprise roll up, and 1, 2, 3,
surprise roll
Io
up.
wins. We get a Jade versus Charlotte non-title based feud.
That's what. Listen, I love teasing Jade versus Charlotte, and like I said in the video that Jay sent you on TikTok, my only stipulation is I want this to not involve a title. It would be fun if there was one, but I think you can have the story without being a title. But
I think that they do that because that makes sense. And since Triple H is in charge, we can talk about booking that makes sense that should actually happen, and it probably will happen.
Yep. But back to this little segment. So there's a couple of seconds where Jade and Charlotte are staring down at each other. And Triple H comes over. And before he gets to introduce Jade to Charlotte, she's like, "Oh, this is Jade. I know who she is." And Jade's like, "Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you." And then Charlotte, with the coldest line, tells her, "Is this like, oh, I know." And essentially, it's nice to meet her. Charlotte, yeah, again, Charlotte just says, "Oh, it will be," as she walks past her to leave. So I'm like, yes. Oh my goodness. Now you got me excited with the prospect of maybe Jade comes out to cost Charlotte the match just by entering with her music or whatever. But next week we got a women's championship match, so I'm not going to complain. So then we get into our main event not main event. We get our semi-main event where the undisputed World Tag Team Champions Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso are defending their titles against Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. And I gotta say, this match was fun. But again, I need SmackDown and Raw and NXT to stop doing this. But every time like we get a match, then we cut backstage like before the match happens, like we're getting entrances, and then we cut backstage to have promos backstage, and then we get back to the match. I'm like, what is happening, WWE? Like, what is
I don't know
going
why
on?
they're doing that. I will say I do like Austin Theory and Grayson Waller's entrance when Austin Theory comes out and he's doing his little like pose thing. You see Grayson Waller in the background talking. I like that. I think it's pretty cool. That's a
I
fun
actually
tag
like
team.
Austin and Grayson as yeah, that is definitely a fun tag team. But before this match, we're backstage where once again we see Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso talking. Roman wants Jimmy to call the shots like he thinks he can and handle the Jey Uso situation tonight. Jimmy walks off to do that and calls Solo Sikoa to come with him. So again, Roman Reigns is manipulating the situation, and then we get into the actual match itself. This was a fun match. I really, really enjoyed this match. This was a lot of fun.
Just four really talented dudes doing four really talented dude things, beating up on each other. I mean, it's who you expected to win was going to win. I didn't think Cody and Jay are going to drop the belts that soon. As much as we didn't want Judgment Day to drop it, Judgment Day was transitional champions, unfortunately. But good match overall. They did a great job. I'm hoping we see more Grayson and Austin Theory in the future. Because we need looks like the SmackDown tag division is getting pretty stacked, and I'm excited to see that. Can we just please split the belt so we can have tag titles on either side? That would be fantastic, WWE. Can we do that, please?
Look, I want that more than anything, and I hope that is the case. But we'll see what happens. And then we don't skip a beat because then we immediately we go into we literally go into our next match. But
Well, no,
there's
no.
in the between the transition phase, like
As they were leaving, Bloodline
mm-hmm.
comes out and stares him down. It's the first time we've seen Cody and Roman face each other off since tonight after Mania. And this was the first time Jimmy and Jay have seen each other
because they
in
have
a minute.
the stare down was great, and I love Nick Aldis. I was like, Nick Aldis is a big dude. Like he's standing in between Roman and Cody. I was like, Nick Aldis is a big dude.
He's huge.
Oh my goodness. But they stare down at each other, and then it's like ships passing into the night as Cody and Jay go to the back, and then Roman and Solo head down to the ring. And then eventually, because it takes like 20 minutes for that entrance to happen, we go to a commercial break. And then when we come back, as the entrance is still happening, Michael Cole like runs down what we're getting next week on SmackDown. So from San Antonio, Texas, it's going to be Charlotte Flair versus Io for the WWE Women's Championship. And then we're getting Santos versus Montez Ford in singles action, and I'm excited.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
I was just like, it is. So then LA Knight's theme music hits, and then he makes his way down to the ring and gets settled in. Yeah. And then the bell starts, and then we are off and running with this match.
It was actually a good match.
This match, it really was. I really, really enjoyed it. And for a while, both of them, Solo and LA Knight, are doing their thing in the ring. I was like, I'm staring at my screen. I'm looking at the time clock. I was like, some shenanigans are going to happen because no way this is going to just be a regular match. Not when the bloodline is involved. And sure enough, I was correct.
Always shenanigans.
Oh my goodness. Because as LA Knight has the momentum, Jimmy makes his way down to the ring and he gets involved physically, which then in turn brings out John Cena to beat down Jimmy. And LA Knight finishes him off. Solo Sikoa, tries to do his thing, but is distracted by Cena and Jimmy fighting. And he tries to do the Samoan spike, but then LA Knight turns it into the blunt force trauma to get the pinfall. in
Well,
which your
remember,
winner of this match is L.A. Knight.
he hit Cena with the Samoan spike, then the blunt force trauma. Then out of nowhere, boom, Roman Reigns spears LA Knight. SmackDown ends with the 1.
Oh, for sure. So that happens after the match. So LA Knight picks up the win, and then all hell breaks loose. Again, like you said, Cena gets Roman Reigns spears LA Knight and stands over him with the 1. And that is how SmackDown goes off the air. Like I said, this was a really good SmackDown.
If SmackDown continues to do this all the time, I would actually be excited to watch SmackDown for a change.
Seriously, with Triple H in charge, here's hoping that over the next couple months, SmackDown and Monday Night Raw will get better, because Raw on Monday was actually surprisingly really good as well. I mean, listen, Triple H knows what he's doing, because they haven't officially said it, but we got DIY back, and I am not going to complain about DIY reuniting.
I love DIY. Yeah, give me more Johnny wrestling.
Seriously, Johnny wrestling, Tommaso Ciampa, like, amazing. All right, Minnie. Well, with this season premiere of SmackDown, the last thing we have to do is give our final rating. So here, we're going to use the out of 10 mini scale. I'm going to give this SmackDown an 8 out of 10 minis. Like, this was really good. The matches were fun. The segments didn't overstay their welcome. The Bloodline stuff didn't take like 30 minutes, which I was appreciative of. My only critique is the match between Bayley and Zelina was not great, and was also really short. And more women's matches, please. But other than that, I give it an 8 out of 10. Vinny, what do you give this week's SmackDown?
I was just giving it a 9. The only issue I had with it was the women's portion. Just the match itself, because we had technically 3 women's segments, which was good, because we had the Charlotte Jade, the match, and the Bayley Zelina initial portion of it. So I'm good to see more women involved. We just need, technically there was that little bit with tag titles, but we need more women involved in SmackDown, because we don't have a lot in SmackDown. But you get more of that. I feel like if they would have done just a little bit more with the women there and had a little bit better match there, it would have been a 10 out of 10. Other than that, it was 9 out of 10 minis. I can't talk.
Yes. Yeet.
Yeet.
We're making that a thing here now.
Out of how many yeets was that match?
Okay, that's what we're gonna use on the SmackDown scale now. Is just like, we still have the mini scale, but now, because I love it, we're gonna be, how many yeets do you get? I give it 8 out of 10. Yeet.
That's how we rate matches from now on. The overall grade is minis, and how we rate individual matches is how many yeets.
Yes. And then just, what was your match of the night? This was my match of the night. Oh.
The Who award goes to this match.
We're writing this down, and we're definitely using it from now on here on SmackDown. This is
it's going to be all over. You see this in all the reviews.
That does bring us to the end of another Friday night. We're going to slowly add it into everything. I'm so excited. But that does conclude this week's Friday Night Faction review. The season premiere was really, really good. And before we sign off, if you like this review, you can check out other reviews we have here on the Bi-Conics Wrestling YouTube channel. You can follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod, where you can get notifications on when videos go live, as well as some behind-the-scenes shenanigans and clips of these episodes. And if you want to hear our more unhinged opinions, make sure to check out the Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast, where we talk about anything, everything, and it is more chaotic than this review. But this has been Mikey and my co-host, Minnie. Thank you for tuning into another review of Friday Night Faction. Yep, who? And until, I gotta be careful, because then it's like, who? And then the Brody King, how? Because it's 2 similar things now. But thank you so much for tuning in. And until the next review, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, stay Bi-Conic, you beautiful bastards. But until then, we'll see you next time. Yeet!